Let me give you some background. I was adopted when I was 8. My bio parents, well, that's a long, sad story for another time, but let's just say they weren't in a position to care for me. My adoptive parents, Carol and Tom, were amazing. They gave me a stable home, encouragement, and always told me I could be anything I wanted to be. When I decided I wanted to be a doctor, specifically a pediatric oncologist, after a childhood friend battled leukemia, they were my biggest cheerleaders. That's our Sarah. Mom, Carol would say, going to save the world. Dad, Tom would beam and talk about how proud he was. They weren't super wealthy, but comfortable. Dad's an accountant. Mom's a part-time librarian. They always emphasized the importance of education. They helped me with college applications, celebrated when I got into my top choice university, a good state school with a decent pre-med program, and moved me into my dorm with tears in their eyes. For the first 2 years, everything was normal. They paid my tuition, helped with living expenses, called every Sunday. I worked a part-time job at the campus coffee shop for my own spending money and to contribute. But the bulk of it, they covered. I thought we were all on the same page. The first sign something was off came last summer. I was home, working my usual summer job at the local clinic, just filing an admin, but it was great experience. Mom started making weird comments. You know, Sarah, being a doctor is such a long road, so much debt. Or that Mrs. Henderson down the street, her daughter Debbie got a job right out of high school as a bank teller, and she's already saving for a down payment on a condo. Little digs, almost imperceptible, but they started to accumulate. I brushed them off. Maybe she was just worried about the financial strain, which I understood. Dad seemed quieter too, less enthusiastic when I talked about my challenging but fascinating organic chemistry class. Then, about 3 months ago, the Sunday call, usually it was light, chatty, asking about my classes, my friends. This time, Dad's voice was formal. Sarah, your mother and I need to talk to you about something important. Can you come home next weekend? My stomach dropped. That important talk tone is never good. I spent the whole week a nervous wreck, replaying every conversation, wondering what I'd done wrong. Had my grades slipped? Did they disapprove of my friends? The anxiety gnawed at me. I drove home that Friday, heart pounding. They were sitting at the kitchen table, the one where we'd had so many happy family dinners, looking grim. The air felt heavy. This was it. Sarah, honey, Mom started, her voice unnaturally soft, not meeting my eyes. We love you very much, you know that. Here it comes, I thought. The we love you, but a classic parental pre-bad news softener. Dad cleared his throat, fiddling with a napkin. As you know, college is very expensive, and your chosen field, it's many more years of schooling, many more years of expense. Medical school, residency. It's a huge commitment, financially and time-wise. We've been looking at our finances, Mom continued, her gaze fixed on the floral placemat in front of her. And well, things are tighter than we anticipated. We've had some unexpected expenses with the house, the roof needed urgent repairs, and your father's firm hasn't been doing as well, fewer clients this year. I nodded, trying to be understanding, my heart sinking. Okay, so, do you need me to take on more hours at my job? I can look for something that pays better. Or we can look into more student loans for next semester. I'm happy to take on more of the loan burden myself. I was already trying to problem solve, to show them I was willing to contribute more. Dad sighed, a deep, weary sound that seemed to come from his toes. Sarah, it's more than that. We've made a decision. We can't continue to pay for your university education. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I stared at them, uncomprehending. It felt like the room tilted. Can't pay? What do you mean? Like for this semester? Or moving forward? My voice was a small, shaky thing. Moving forward, Mom said, finally looking at me. Her expression a weird mix of apology and something else. Resolution? Defensiveness? We just can't swing it anymore, honey. We've stretched ourselves as far as we can. We have to think about our retirement too, you know? My mind was reeling. This was my dream. Pre-med. Becoming a doctor. They knew how much it meant to me. They had fostered this dream. How could they just pull the plug? But what am I supposed to do? I whispered, the shock starting to give way to a cold dread that spread through my limbs. I'm halfway through my junior year. I have good grades. I can get more loans. I can apply for scholarships. I've already started looking into some departmental ones. Loans are a terrible burden, Sarah, Dad said, shaking his head with an air of finality. And scholarships are so competitive, like winning the lottery. We just don't want to see you saddled with all that debt, hundreds of thousands potentially, with no guarantee of even getting into med school, let alone finishing it. It's such a gamble. But it's my debt, my risk, I argued, my voice rising slightly, laced with desperation. It's what I want to do. You always said I could be anything. You were so proud when I got into the pre-med program. We know what we said, Sarah, Mom interrupted, her voice firmer now, losing its earlier softness. But circumstances change. People change. Dreams change. Sometimes you have to be realistic. My dreams hadn't changed. Their willingness to support them apparently had. And the shift was so abrupt, so out of character. It felt like I was talking to strangers. So, what are you suggesting? I asked, a horrible suspicion dawning, a cold pit forming in my stomach. That I just drop out? They exchanged a look. It was a quick, almost imperceptible glance. But it screamed of a pre-rehearsed conversation. Then Mom smiled. A brittle, forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, not exactly drop out with nothing to do, of course. We've been thinking, there's that new supermarket, Fresh Foods, that just opened up down the road. They're hiring cashiers, full-time, with benefits, I think. It would be a good, steady job. You could start right away, learn some responsibility, earn your own money, contribute to the household. I stared at her, dumbfounded. A cashier. They wanted me, their future doctor, the girl whose science fair projects they'd lauded, to drop out of university and become a cashier. The whiplash was so intense, I felt dizzy. My ears were ringing. Was this a joke? A really, really cruel, unfunny joke. But the earnest, almost hopeful expressions on their faces told me they were dead serious. This was their solution. How could the same people who cheered my acceptance into pre-med now be pushing me towards a minimum wage job with such conviction? It didn't make any sense. My brain felt like it had been put in a blender. After all the late nights fueled by coffee and sheer willpower, wrestling with organic chemistry, memorizing anatomical structures, all the volunteering hours at the local hospital, all the passionate dinner table conversations about medical ethics and groundbreaking research, it felt like a cruel joke, a punch to the gut. A cashier, I finally managed to choke out, my voice hoarse with disbelief. You want me to throw away 2.5 years of hard work, my 3.8 GPA, my research assistant position with Dr. Albright, my entire future, to scan groceries? The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Mom's forced smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. Sarah, don't be dramatic. It's an honest living. Many people do it, and it's realistic. You could live at home, save money. No rent, no food bills. Maybe in a few years, if you're still set on college, you could try some night classes at the community college, something more affordable, like business administration, or maybe a paralegal certificate. Those are always useful. Business administration, paralegal certificate, they weren't just suggesting a pause, they were actively trying to reroute my entire life's trajectory. It wasn't just about the money anymore, was it? This felt targeted, like they were trying to prune me back to make me smaller, less ambitious, less expensive. Yes, but also less independent, less likely to fly far from the nest. I don't want to study business administration, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and burgeoning anger. I want to be a doctor. You know this. You've always known this. You bought me my first toy stethoscope. Tears were pricking at my eyes, hot and insistent, and I fought them back furiously. I wouldn't break down. Not yet. Dad sighed, that heavy, put-upon sound again that made me feel like a colossal disappointment. Sarah, we're trying to be practical here. Being a doctor is a fine dream for a kid, but you're an adult now. Or you should be acting like one. Real life is about making sensible choices, making compromises, not chasing fantasies that could leave you bankrupt and deeply unhappy when they don't pan out. My dream isn't a fantasy. I shot back, the anger starting to win over the shock. My hands were clenched into fists. I have excellent grades. I'm acing my pre-med courses. I volunteer. I shadow doctors. I am on track. This isn't some childish whim I cooked up yesterday. A 3.8 GPA doesn't pay the bills, Sarah, Mom said coolly, her voice now devoid of any warmth. It was like a steel door had slammed shut. Her earlier softness felt like a manipulative tactic. And frankly, we're tired. We've done our part. We raised you. We gave you a good home. We supported you through elementary, middle, and high school. And 2 full years of expensive university. Some might say that's more than enough. Especially considering, she trailed off, but the unspoken hung in the air. Especially considering you're not our biological child. The words weren't said, but I felt them like a brand. It's time you started pulling your own weight, contributing to this family instead of just taking. The implication was clear, and it stung more than anything. I was a burden. My dreams were a burden. My very existence as their college student daughter was a burden they were no longer willing to bear. The "we love you" from the beginning of the conversation felt like a distant, hollow lie. So this is it? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet, the tremor gone, replaced by a cold, hard knot in my chest. You're just cutting me off? No discussion, no compromise, no willingness to explore other financial aid options with me? Just drop out and get a job at Fresh Foods? We are discussing it, Sarah, Dad said, his tone one of strained patience, as if I were the one being unreasonable. We're telling you our decision, which we have thought long and hard about, and we're offering you a viable, sensible alternative, a roof over your head, food on the table, a steady income. Many young people would be grateful for that opportunity. Grateful. There was that word again, a word I'd heard a lot growing up, usually in softer contexts. Now it felt like a cudgel. The underlying message was deafening. You, adopted girl, should be grateful for whatever scraps we deign to throw your way. Don't dare to ask for more. Don't dare to have big dreams that inconvenience us. I'd never truly felt like the adopted girl with them before. Not in a negative way. They'd always made me feel like their daughter, period. But now it felt like that unspoken qualifier was being brandished like a weapon to make me feel small and indebted. I stood up, my legs shaking so badly I was surprised I didn't fall. I need some air. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I couldn't let them see how much they were devastating me. I walked out of the house, out into the chilly autumn afternoon, my mind a maelstrom of confusion, hurt, and a burning, bitter anger. I walked for hours, not knowing where I was going, the scenes from the kitchen replaying in an endless, torturous loop, their words, their expressions, the casual cruelty of it. The way they'd dangled my dreams in front of me for years, encouraged them, celebrated them, only to snatch them away with such callous indifference, offering a checkout scanner as a replacement. When I finally dragged myself back, numb and exhausted, they were watching TV in the living room, bathed in the flickering blue light, like nothing monumental had happened. Like they hadn't just casually detonated a bomb in the middle of my life, shattering my future into a million pieces. Feeling better, honey? Mom asked, her eyes still glued to the sitcom on the screen. The casualness of it was another twist of the knife. I didn't answer. I went straight to my old bedroom, the room filled with relics of a past I no longer recognized. A past where I was their cherished, aspiring doctor. The future Dr. Sarah, poster I'd proudly made in 9th grade, complete with glitter and cutout pictures of medical equipment, seemed to mock me from the wall. The next morning, they started in again, as if the previous day's conversation was just the opening salvo. So, have you thought about what we said? Dad asked over breakfast, his tone deliberately light, like he was asking if I wanted more toast. I could drive you down to Fresh Foods after breakfast. You could fill out an application. Get the ball rolling. They have a sign-on bonus, I think, Mom added brightly. A grotesque parody of encouragement. $50 after your first month. You could put that towards, well, whatever you like. They were relentless. Every conversation, every interaction was somehow steered back to me dropping out, me getting that cashier job. They painted it as the only sensible option, the only responsible path. They started subtly, and not so subtly, criticizing my college friends as bad influences, who were filling my head with unrealistic ideas about gallivanting off to med school. They even started finding fault with my major. All those science classes, Mom said with a sniff one afternoon. So much memorization of things you'll never use. Not much use in the real world, is it? Unless you're a scientist, which is even harder and pays even less than being a doctor until you're ancient. It was a coordinated campaign of discouragement, a psychological siege. They weren't just withdrawing financial support. They were actively trying to crush my spirit, to dismantle my ambition, to make me doubt myself and my choices. They were trying to rewrite my personality. And the worst part, the truly terrifying part, a tiny, insidious part of me, exhausted and battered, was starting to wonder if they were right. Was I being selfish, unrealistic, ungrateful? Was I a fool for dreaming so big? The pressure was immense, suffocating. It felt like the walls were closing in. My dream, the one thing that had given my life direction and purpose for as long as I could remember, felt like it was slipping through my fingers. And the people I trusted most in the world, the people who were supposed to be my bedrock, were the ones prying my hands open. What was I supposed to do? Give up everything I'd worked for, everything I was, or fight for a future that suddenly seemed impossible to reach, especially if I had to do it completely and utterly alone, against the wishes of the only family I'd ever really known. The following week, back at university, was a living hell. I walked around in a daze, a knot of anxiety permanently lodged in my chest. Every time my phone buzzed with a text from Mom or Dad, my stomach would lurch. The messages were relentless, a constant drip of corrosive discouragement. Have you thought about Fresh Foods, honey? They're holding interviews next week. I could call and see if they can fit you in. Or your old room is here for you whenever you're ready to be sensible and come home. Sarah, we miss you when you're being reasonable. Sensible. Reasonable. They're new code words for me abandoning my dreams and conforming to their suddenly downsized expectations for my life. I tried to reason with them over the phone, my voice shaking as I presented my case again and again. I sent them detailed breakdowns of potential loan repayments, showing how manageable it could be with a doctor's salary. I emailed them links to scholarship databases, highlighting ones I was eligible for. I even found articles about the projected physician shortage and the societal need for more doctors. Their responses were consistently dismissive, almost patronizing. Debt is a trap, Sarah, a millstone around your neck for decades. Those scholarships are for geniuses or star athletes, not ordinary girls like you. You're being stubborn and unrealistic, living in a fantasy world. Real life will hit you hard. The gaslighting was off the charts. They twisted my determination into obstinacy, my ambition into entitled selfishness. They kept reiterating how much they'd sacrificed for me over the years, a new theme that had never surfaced before. How I was being ungrateful and disrespectful by not immediately bowing to their wisdom and getting a job as a cashier. It was like they were trying to erase the previous 20 years of unwavering encouragement, to rewrite our shared history so that they were the long-suffering martyrs and I was the unappreciative, headstrong brat who refused to see reason. It made me question my own memory. Had I imagined their support all these years? My grades, previously stellar, started to suffer. How could I concentrate on the intricacies of cellular biology or the nuances of medical ethics when my entire future felt like it was crumbling, being actively dismantled by the people I loved most? I confided in my best friend and roommate Maya during a late-night study session that devolved into me sobbing uncontrollably. She was horrified. Sarah, that's insane. It's cruel, she exclaimed after I tearfully recounted the Fresh Foods proposal and the subsequent pressure campaign. They can't just do that. After everything they said, all the years of support and cheering you on. Apparently they can, I mumbled, staring blankly at my open textbook, the words swimming before my eyes. And they are. So what are you gonna do? Maya asked, her voice gentle but firm, her dark eyes full of concern. You're not actually considering the cashier thing, are you? The shame of it was, a tiny, treacherous part of me was, the constant barrage from my parents, the erosion of my confidence, the sheer exhaustion of fighting them. It was wearing me down, the thought of navigating the complex financial aid system alone, of taking on massive debt, of potentially failing and proving them right. It was overwhelming. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was aiming too high. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. The self-doubt was a poisonous weed, taking root in the cracks of my fractured confidence. I don't know, Maya, I whispered, the words feeling like a confession of failure. I just don't know anymore. It feels like they don't even want me to succeed. Not really. It's like they regret adopting me, regret letting me dream so big, and now they want to put me back in a smaller box. Aya put her arm around my shoulders, her presence a small comfort in the storm. Don't you dare think that, Sarah. This isn't about you not being good enough. This is about them. Something's changed with them, not with you or your abilities. You are brilliant, and you are going to be an amazing doctor. We just need to figure out how to make it happen without them, if that's what it takes. Her unwavering belief was a lifeline in the churning sea of my despair. Bolstered by her support, I also scheduled an emergency meeting with my pre-med advisor, Dr. Evans. I was terrified, ashamed to admit my situation, to reveal that the supportive family I'd always spoken of so proudly was now actively trying to sabotage my education. But Dr. Evans was incredible. She listened patiently, her expression growing more concerned and then indignant as I haltingly told her everything, the words tumbling out in a rush of pain and confusion. Sarah, she said when I finished, her voice calm but firm, this is a very difficult and frankly shocking situation. And I am so sorry your parents have put you in this position. But let me be very clear. You are an exceptional student. You have the talent, the drive, and the compassion to be an excellent physician. Dropping out now, or being forced to, would be a tragedy, not just for you, but for the patients you will one day help. Her words, so different from the doubting, dismissive tone of my parents, were like a balm to my bruised spirit. They felt like truth. She didn't dismiss my parents' stated concerns about finances entirely, but she immediately started brainstorming practical solutions. She told me about emergency university grants I could apply for, specific scholarships for students facing unexpected hardship or family estrangement, and even offered to write me a glowing, personalized recommendation for anything I applied for. She also suggested I look into becoming a resident advisor (RA) for my senior year, which would cover room and board entirely. It's a lot of work, she said, but you're responsible and good with people. I think you'd be great at it. Armed with this new information, a folder full of application forms, and a sliver of renewed, fragile hope, I knew what I had to do. I had to confront my parents again, not to plead this time, but to present them with these viable alternatives, to show them that I was serious, resourceful, and willing to do whatever it took. Surely, if their concern was truly just financial, they'd be relieved, supportive even, of these solutions that took the burden off them. This would be the real test. If they still pushed back, if they still insisted on fresh foods, then I'd know without a shadow of a doubt that their motives were far more complex and far more sinister than just an empty bank account. My heart pounded at the thought of that conversation. What if this last attempt to reason with them, to appeal to the loving parents I thought I knew, only revealed an even uglier truth? That weekend, I drove home with a knot of dread in my stomach, but also a flicker of desperate hope. I had a folder thick with financial aid applications, scholarship essays I'd already started drafting, and information on the RA program. If their primary concern was money, this was the olive branch. This was me, meeting them more than halfway. I found them in the living room, Dad reading the paper, Mom knitting, the picture of domestic tranquility. I took a deep breath. Mom, Dad, can we talk? I've done a lot of research, and I have some solutions for the college funding situation. They exchanged that look again, the one that made me feel like I was a problem to be managed. Oh, Sarah, Mom said with a weary sigh, putting down her knitting. We've been over this. We thought you'd come to your senses by now. I have come to my senses, I said, trying to keep my voice even, laying the folder on the coffee table. Dr. Evans, My advisor has helped me find several options. There are emergency grants, specific scholarships for students in my situation. And if I become an RA next year, my room and board will be completely covered. I'll still need loans for tuition, but significantly less, and I'm prepared to take those on myself. I watch their faces, searching for any sign of relief, of pride in my resourcefulness, of the supportive parents I remembered. Instead, Dad put down his paper with a sharp rustle. Sarah, you're not listening. We don't want you taking on any more debt and all those applications. That's a long shot. What if you don't get them? And being an RA, that's a huge responsibility. It'll take away from your studies, assuming you could even handle it. It's not about handling it, I exclaimed, my frustration mounting. It's about finding a way. Don't you see? I'm trying to make this work, to take the financial burden off you. Mom shook her head, a look of pity on her face that made my skin crawl. Honey, you're just making things harder for yourself, chasing these schemes, when there's a perfectly good, stable job waiting for you at Fresh Foods. No debt, no stress, no uncertainty. You could be contributing to the household, helping us out for a change. Helping you out? The word slipped out sharp and accusatory. Is that what this is about? You want me to get a job so I can give you money? Dad's face hardened. Don't be disrespectful, young lady. Of course, we expect you to contribute if you're living under our roof, not gallivanting off to some expensive university we can no longer afford, pursuing a pipe dream. It's not a pipe dream, I insisted, my voice cracking. And this isn't just about money, is it? If it were, you'd be happy I found these solutions. Then Mom said something that chilled me to the bone. She looked at me, her eyes cold, and said, Honestly, Sarah, maybe this is for the best. Being a doctor, it's such an all-consuming career. You'd never have time for a family, for us. We'd hardly ever see you. If you worked locally, stayed here, we could still be a family. You could help us as we get older. Isn't that what families do? Support each other. My jaw dropped. There it was. The real reason, or at least a significant part of it. It wasn't just the money. It was control. It was fear of me leaving, of me becoming too independent, of me having a life that didn't revolve around them. They wanted me tethered, close by, a dutiful daughter who would prioritize their needs, their comfort, above her own aspirations. The Fresh Foods job wasn't a solution, it was an anchor. The fight that followed was awful, the worst we'd ever had. I accused them of selfishness, of trying to sabotage my future out of their own fears. They called me ungrateful, delusional, disrespectful. Words were thrown like daggers. The years of perceived love and support crumbled, revealing something ugly and twisted underneath. Finally exhausted and heartbroken, I stood up. I see now, I said, my voice hollow. This was never about finances, was it? This is about you not wanting me to fly. You want to keep me in a cage. We want what's best for you, Sarah. Mom cried, tears in her eyes now, but they looked like tears of frustration, not sorrow. No, I said, shaking my head. You want what's easiest for you? I picked up my folder of hope, which now felt like a shield. I'm going back to school. I'm going to apply for every grant, every scholarship. I'm going to become an RA. I will take out loans, and I will become a doctor, with or without your blessing. Clearly without your support. Dad stood up, his face red. If you walk out that door and continue with this foolishness, Sarah, don't expect any more help from us. Ever. You'll be on your own. Completely. It was an ultimatum, their final cruel play. I looked at them, the people who had raised me, the people I had loved and trusted implicitly. And I saw strangers, their faces contorted by a selfishness I couldn't comprehend. The pain was a physical ache in my chest, but beneath it a cold, hard resolve was forming. I guess I already am, I said quietly. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away, tears streaming down my face. I didn't look back. I knew this was a severing, a point of no return. The safety net I thought I always had was gone, ripped away. I was terrified, but I was also, in a strange, grim way, liberated. The fight was no longer against their concerns. It was for my very future, against their deliberate attempt to quash it. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I threw myself into applications, studying like a maniac to keep my grades pristine. Maya was my rock, proofreading essays, making me eat, reminding me I wasn't crazy. I got a second part-time job tutoring underclassmen. I barely slept. The silence from my parents was deafening. No Sunday calls, no texts, nothing. It was like I'd ceased to exist for them. Then, slowly, things started to shift. I got a significant university grant. I was awarded two smaller scholarships. And then, the big one, I was accepted into the RA program for my senior year. It meant free room and board. It meant I could do it. It meant they hadn't won. When I got that RA acceptance letter, I sat on my dorm room floor and cried. Not tears of sadness this time, but of overwhelming relief and a fierce, defiant joy. I still have a long road ahead. Med school applications, more loans, years of study. But I know I can do it. The betrayal by my adoptive parents left a deep wound, one that I don't know will ever fully heal. They tried to break my spirit, to shrink my world down to the size of their fears, but they underestimated me. They underestimated my dream. I haven't spoken to them since that day. Sometimes a wave of sadness washes over me for the family I thought I had. But then I look at my acceptance letter for the RA program, at my glowing transcripts, and I know I made the right choice. I chose myself. I chose my future. And I will be a doctor. TLDR, adoptive parents who always supported my dream of being a doctor suddenly pulled funding junior year of college, relentlessly pressured me to drop out and get a cashier job. Turns out, their motives weren't just financial. They wanted to keep me close and control my future. I refused, found my own funding through grants, scholarships, and becoming an RA. Now estranged from them, but on track to achieve my dream. It hurts, but I chose me.